Christmas in Cork is supposed to smell like pine trees, roast dinners, maybe the faint chaos of someone burning the pudding, not an entire four-storey Georgian house going up in flames while people are trapped inside, pounding at doors that suddenly won't open. And the wildest part? The man responsible wasn't finished. When the homeowner finally fought through the smoke trying to escape, he didn't just run into danger, he ran straight into a blade. This wasn't just a fire. This was Christmas morning turning into a nightmare. A deliberate act that felt like someone pressing pause on the joy of the season and hitting catastrophe instead. Today, we finally heard the full story in court. And trust me, the details were the kind that make you sit back and whisper, how did anyone survive this? This is the Cork Christmas Day arson and knife attack. A case that shows how one person's actions can turn a home, a holiday, and 4 innocent lives into a moment they will never forget, even though they wish they could. Picture Cork City on Christmas Day. The streets quiet, the shops closed, that rare calm where the whole country kind of hits the pause button. Inside one tall Georgian house, 4 people were settling into the holiday. 4 floors of old timber, high ceilings, fireplaces, the kind of place that looks dreamy in December when the lights are on and the world outside feels still. But on this particular Christmas, someone else was there too. A man who wasn't carrying gifts, but carrying something far darker. The house stood in the middle of Cork like any other festive home. But that morning it would become a maze of smoke, blocked exits, and panic so sharp it left marks long after the day itself was gone. And here's where the vibe of the whole thing twists. This wasn't some silent accident in the night. This was deliberate, calculated. A chain of choices that turned an old Georgian building into a chimney of fear, floor by floor, until the people inside realized, way too late, they weren't dealing with a malfunction or a freak event. They were dealing with a threat. As the first signs of smoke curled under doors, nothing about the peaceful Christmas morning outside matched what was unfolding inside. It was one of those moments where the holiday postcard and the real world did not agree at all. It started small, the way disasters always tease you before they slam the door shut. A strange smell drifting through the house. Not the cozy Christmas kitchen kind, the sharp chemical kind that makes your brain go, hold on, that's not right. Then came the smoke, thin at first, a little too early in the day to be coming from anywhere except trouble. The people inside moved toward the exits. You know, the normal instinct when your house starts acting like a chimney. But that's when the second red flag dropped. The exits were blocked, not jammed, not stuck, blocked on purpose. Imagine that moment. You're trying to leave a burning building, and the door you've opened 1,000 times suddenly won't budge. It's like the walls are closing in, and the panic hits your chest before the smoke even has time to. And somewhere in the middle of that confusion, the realization landed with a weight heavier than the smoke above them. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a faulty wire or a candle tipping over. Someone wanted them trapped. Every escape route they tried only confirmed it. Locked, obstructed, dead ends in every direction. By the time the flames started building, the fear in that house shifted from "we need to get out" to "someone planned this." And they were right. Christmas morning should unfold slowly. Tea on the table, someone pretending they didn't already check the presents, that whole cozy Irish rhythm. But in this house, the timeline snapped into chaos fast. Sometime early that day, before anyone inside realized what was happening, the man responsible moved through the Georgian building with intention. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't panicked, he was preparing. First, he blocked the exits, quietly, deliberately. One door, then another, turning an ordinary home into a trap without making a sound loud enough to warn the occupants. Next came the fire. Once the exits were sealed, the flames were set, and they didn't start small. Old timber, dry materials, multiple floors. The fire climbed like it had been waiting for an invitation. Within moments, smoke thickened through the hallways. Rooms that had been warm and silent filled with the choking sting of burning wood and fear. The 4 people inside scrambled from floor to floor, realizing too quickly that every path they knew, every staircase they trusted, every route out had been prepared against them. Somewhere in the confusion, the homeowner pushed toward what looked like a possible escape. He fought through the smoke, forcing himself through the heat, expecting maybe, finally, a way out. But instead of fresh air, he ran into the attacker. And in that tight, frantic moment, the man slashed him with a knife. A burning house, a blocked exit, and now a blade. It turned the whole situation from a fire emergency into a full-on survival scene, one unfolding minute by minute, with every second feeling like the one where everything might collapse. The turning point in this whole nightmare came in a moment that should have been the start of escape, but instead became the point where everything spiraled from terrifying to almost unbelievable. Picture it, the homeowner, coughing through thick smoke, eyes burning, lungs screaming for clean air, finally forces his way toward what he hopes is freedom. He isn't thinking about anything except getting out and pulling the others with him. At that moment, survival is the only thing on the table. But when he reaches the doorway, the one place that should have offered a shot at life, he runs straight into the man responsible. And instead of helping or even stepping aside, the attacker lashes out with a knife. That single moment changed the trajectory of the entire event. It told everyone inside the same chilling truth. This wasn't just arson. This wasn't just fire. This was violence layered on top of violence. And the people trapped inside were facing someone who had no intention of letting them go easily. The slash, the shock, the sudden jolt of realizing this man had both set the house ablaze and was armed. It was the exact second when the victims understood the danger was not the fire alone. It was the person who created it. From here, the situation became something the guards would later describe as life-threatening on multiple fronts. The fire was spreading, the exits were blocked, and the attacker was actively preventing escape. That was the pivot. The moment the case shifted from Christmas Day incident to a major criminal investigation that would end up before the Central Criminal Court. When the smoke finally cleared and the house stood charred and gutted, the guards stepped into what was basically a four-story crime scene layered with evidence, chaos, and scorch marks that told their own story. Right from the start, investigators knew this wasn't a simple fire. Nothing about it behaved like an accident, not the blocked exits, not the burn patterns, not the fact that 4 people had been trapped inside a building that should have had multiple safe escape points. The guards interviewed the victims, who were still shaken and covered in the kind of shock you don't just walk off. The homeowner's statement immediately changed the direction of the case. Not only had he seen the suspect, he had been attacked by him. The slash wound wasn't just an injury. It was physical confirmation that this man had escalated the danger while the fire was actively burning. Inside the ruined building, forensic teams started piecing together the sequence. They identified where the fire started, how it spread, and how the exits had been obstructed. The layout matched exactly what the victims described: intentional barriers placed to lock them inside while the flames climbed from floor to floor. Witnesses outside the home were also interviewed. People had seen smoke, heard shouting, watched the building turn into a tower of heat on a day when nobody expected anything but family and calm. The suspect was located and taken into custody, and psychiatric reports were ordered, a necessary step given the extreme nature of what happened. Those later became part of the case file that went before the Central Criminal Court. By the time investigators wrapped their initial work, they had a clear narrative. This was deliberate arson, planned obstruction of escape routes, and a knife attack on the homeowner during an active fire. The file was strong, the evidence was cohesive, and the case was officially heading towards sentencing. In this case, there was no mystery suspect lurking in the background, no long list of possible culprits. The investigation led straight to one man, the same individual who had been inside the house, who blocked the exits, who set the fire, and who slashed the homeowner during the escape attempt. Since this is an active court matter and YouTube guidelines require neutral, fact-based reporting, here's what is verified. The man responsible admitted involvement in the arson and the knife attack. Psychiatric evaluations were carried out and presented to the court, giving insight into his mental state and the factors that may have contributed to his actions. These reports did not excuse the danger he caused, but they were considered as part of the legal process. There were no competing theories. No unknown accomplices, no debate over who committed the acts. The focus of both investigators and the court was on understanding why he acted the way he did and how to assess the level of risk he posed to others. What made this case stand out was the combination of planning and violence. Blocking the exits showed forethought. Starting the fire on a day when people were certain to be home added another layer of intent. and the knife attack carried out while the house was burning pushed the incident far beyond a single impulsive act. The court proceedings shifted from the question of guilt, which was already established, to the question of responsibility, mental health, danger to the public, and the appropriate sentence for a man whose actions could easily have led to the loss of 4 lives. The biggest breakthrough in this case didn't come from a dramatic new witness or a surprise confession. It came from finally hearing the full picture laid out in the Central Criminal Court. During the sentencing hearing, the prosecution walked the court through each stage of the event: the blocked exits, the deliberate ignition points, the escalating danger, and the moment the homeowner was slashed while trying to escape. It was the first time all the pieces were presented together in a structured, chronological way, and it painted a chilling, undeniable portrait of intent. But the defense brought its own crucial element: psychiatric reports that describe the man's mental state, his history, and the factors influencing his behavior on that Christmas morning. These evaluations didn't dispute the events, they explained the context behind them, and that context became central to determining how the court would deal with him going forward. The hearing was the key moment where everything crystallized. The danger was real. The planning was deliberate. The potential for tragedy was enormous. 4 people could have been lost in a house fire set intentionally, with their escape routes blocked. The court had to weigh that reality against the psychiatric findings and the man's current condition. This was the point where the entire narrative shifted from what happened to what should happen now: how to sentence someone whose actions nearly caused a mass casualty event in the middle of a holiday morning. The case didn't stall. It moved into its final phase with clarity, supported by detailed evidence, survivor statements, forensic analysis, and medical reports. All that remained was the court's decision. When a fire devastates a home, the damage is usually measured in ash and broken windows. But this case left something heavier hanging in the air, the kind of psychological weight that sticks long after the smoke fades. For the 4 people trapped inside that Georgian house, Christmas Day will never feel the same again. Their holiday didn't end with leftovers and movies. It ended with panic, blocked exits, choking smoke, and the sudden realization that someone they knew had turned their home into a burning trap. The homeowner carried both the physical wound from the knife attack and the emotional aftershock of watching his own home nearly become a grave. The fear, the confusion, the fight for survival, those things don't vanish once the fire brigade packs up. The Cork community wasn't untouched either. News of a Christmas Day arson, deliberate, violent, and unfolding in the heart of the city, shook people. Cork isn't new to tragedy, but this one hit different. It felt senseless, targeted, and far too close to the idea of it could happen to anyone. Neighbors described the scene as surreal: flames tearing through a building on a day meant for quiet family moments, sirens breaking the silence, smoke rising against a sky that should have been calm. As court proceedings moved forward, people waited for answers, not just about sentencing, but about how something like this could happen at all. The mix of intentional violence and mental health considerations left the community with a complicated cocktail of fear, empathy, frustration, and relief that nobody had been lost. And that's the lingering impact. The knowledge that survival was a narrow escape, a reminder that tragedy can unfold even on the gentlest days, and a community quietly hoping that justice and care both are balanced correctly. In the end, this wasn't just a fire. It wasn't just a knife attack. It was a Christmas morning that flipped from peaceful to catastrophic in the space of a few breaths, a reminder that danger doesn't always arrive with a warning, and sometimes the people closest to us carry storms we never see coming. 4 lives were almost lost inside that Georgian house. A community was jolted awake on a day meant for calm, and a courtroom now holds the final word on a man whose actions turned a holiday into a nightmare. But the scars, the visible ones and the ones nobody talks about, will stay long after the sentence is read. Because some stories don't fade when the flames die out. They echo. If you want fast updates on Irish true crime, subscribe. We cover everything before it hits mainstream headlines.